salutations, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Before I Do, the show that shares with you everything that should be done before saying I do. So whether you are single, dating, engaged, don't know if you want to be married, or just curious about the married life, we are here to help facilitate courageous conversation on dating and relationships.
I'm trying to be serious, but you said greetings and salutations like you like 70 years. So anyways, this show is meant to be interactive. Yes. So come on, engage with us. We want to hear about your life experiences. So maybe you have some serious decisions coming up, or some decisions that you may not even know may be on the horizon. So definitely tonight we're going to pose some questions. And when we pose those questions, we call it our speak now or forever hold your peace. We don't want you to hold your peace. We want you to make sure that you keep your peace. And sometimes you get that by sharing. All right. So definitely engage with us and enjoy our show tonight. So we've been talking about boundaries.
Yes, we have. And before we do, we just want to say, hey, Miss Perkins. Hey. Miss Perkins said, good evening, everyone. And be sure to let us know, say hey, don't be rude. Come in, say hey, and also let us know where you're from so we can definitely give you a shout out. And yes, tonight we are talking about establishing healthy boundaries. And this is part 3 because the conversations have been so rich and so good, not just from us, but we are really gleaning and learning a lot from you all. So thank you all so much again for your comments and for your questions as it relates to this really important topic. And one of the things that has been really interesting is our focus obviously is on intimate or romantic relationships, but individuals have also been talking about relationships with their family, professional relationships as well. And that is part of the goal, is that some of the tips and some of the things that you will learn should be applicable to those other areas of relationships. So hopefully you all have enjoyed and learned a lot from it. If you are just tuning in and have not seen parts 1 and 2, we strongly encourage you to go back and watch those after you finish with our episode tonight. And so tonight we are actually going to be talking about digital boundaries. And so just as a review, for those of you who are again just joining us, we started out with emotional boundaries. And so we gave 5 tips as to how to identify, how to address emotional boundaries. Number 1 is to identify where you are lacking emotional boundaries. Most of the time, this will be very obvious because these will be areas where there will be challenges emotionally, where individuals will have access. They will trigger you in certain ways. There will be certain emotions that you will be challenged to actually control when it comes to certain situations or certain individuals, which moves into step 2. You want to identify what is blocking you from detaching either from that emotion or that trigger that is attached to your emotion. And then number 3 is you want to do everything that you can to identify what it is that is keeping you bound and then break those barriers down. Whatever needs to happen in order for you to be able to detach from that trigger or sometimes from that individual so that they don't have control over you in that way is going to be very important. And then step 4, be specific about what your needs are. It is very important to be considerate about the things that you need in order to operate in a healthy way when it comes to your interactions with individuals. And an important part of that is ensuring that you are adhering to and holding people accountable to your boundaries. And last but not least, Charmaine's favorite one, go ahead and ring the bell. Remember the oxygen mask on the airplane. They always tell you that before you put the mask on anyone else, you always want to make sure that you put the mask on yourself first, which means that in order for you to be able to help other people, you want to make sure that you are helping yourself first. And so when it comes to emotional boundaries, one of the things that we found is that this particular boundary issue is essential to some of the other ones. So when we talk about digital boundaries, as we will tonight, when we talked about physical boundaries, that emotional piece is so critical that we make sure that we are in tune with that as we get into those other boundaries.
Absolutely. And I love that last one specifically too, because you are in a relationship with yourself for the rest of your life. And so you have to be the leader in how to treat yourself, how to nurture yourself, how to love yourself. You are the leader and the model for that. And so definitely put in the oxygen mask first. It's not selfish. It is necessary.
Yes.
All right. And then so now we want to transition to just refresh Part 2 was about physical boundaries. And these are just some tips about physical boundaries. Number 1, I'm going to ring the bell again. I'm going to ring the bell a third time.
Yes. You would.
Number 1, okay? Remember, sex isn't currency. So anyone that tries to say, hey, I bought you the lobster and the steak, you ordered from the lobster and the steak side of the menu. So I know at the end of this date, it should be on. All right. It should be sizzling just like that steak was. Okay. It should be flavorful just like that lobster. No, ma'am. No, sir. Okay. Sex is not currency. Do not fall for it. Do not buy into it. And yeah. All right. So number 2. All right. Pretty much talk face to face. When you have someone definitely that you need to provide those physical boundaries for, it's important to make sure you talk face to face. And of course, these tips are provided that you have a healthy relationship. So these are not tips that would be appropriate if definitely, this has not been a healthy relationship. Okay. Tip number 3. Check your body language. Okay. When it comes to physical boundaries, you want to make sure that each of us have that personal space. Each of us have those boundaries. For some people, I call it your billboard, meaning your facial expressions, your hand gestures. Sometimes those things can be very triggering for people. Number 4, clearly define appropriate touching. Again, clearly define appropriate touching. Okay. We definitely live in a society where our younger generations they believe in consent and they actively practice that. And so you definitely want to make sure that you guys have conversations about that. Sometimes people have had trauma, past experiences that, again, how would I know if moving my hands when I talk? How would I know that if that's triggering to you? So clearly define what appropriate touching is and also being mindful of body language. Number 5, last but certainly not least.
That's your one.
All right. Number 5, use the 24-hour rule, meaning call a timeout. We don't weaponize this strategy. We don't weaponize this to do it just because you want to torture the other person. Use a 24-hour rule timeout when physical boundaries definitely have been breached, or maybe they're not being respected, or maybe you need to give yourself a timeout because you're just having a hard time and maybe you need the space. Or maybe you yourself are the one who has challenges with physical boundaries. You've noticed that, man, I've seen my girlfriend or I've seen my boyfriend for the past 7 days in a row. And now it's almost like an addiction. I have to see them every day. No, give yourself a 24-hour timeout so that you are not literally making your partner, the item of your addiction.
Absolutely. So again, that's just a recap of what we covered when it came to the boundaries over the past 2 weeks. And tonight, we're actually covering a topic that if this were 25 years ago, we probably wouldn't even discuss it. So tonight, we're talking about digital boundaries. And
that's a long time ago.
I'm just saying, some of us, some certain people that may be watching right now maybe weren't alive then or were babies then, and that's okay. We're not, don't judge us and we won't judge you. But the fact of the matter is that one of the terms that you like using when it comes to this day and age, as far as with young people, you call them digital natives or digital citizens. Yes, and I hadn't heard that term before. So can you share a little bit about exactly what that means?
This is going to put me on the spot. Okay. So digital native, I believe Generation Z, meaning those are individuals. I think the oldest of the Generation Z, I believe it's probably about 25, maybe 23, between 23 and 25. And the youngest of Generation Zers right now should be about 7 years old. So they should be like in elementary school, and 6 years on down is considered Generation A or Alpha. And so Generation Z, they were dubbed the digital natives because they're the first generation to really be born with, they didn't know life before the internet. They didn't know life before YouTube. They didn't know life before all of these devices. So they literally are a generation where they're digital natives. They don't know anything before that. So when we start talking about, and as an educator, sometimes I'll get teachers to say, well, they need to learn how to use a dictionary. And I'm like, they're thinking to myself, why? Why would they go over to the bookshelf and pick up a dictionary and figure out how to find the word in alpha order and sequential order when they're just used to picking up a device?
Google is right there.
Exactly. Like,
Yep.
Why would they do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't mean that the skill isn't important. It just means that it's native for them to go to a digital device. And for some of us, hey, it's not so foreign for us to still use a thesaurus and they're like, what, thesaurus, what?
Mm-hmm.
Or dictionary.
Yeah, and part of the reason why this is important is because obviously when it comes to our laptops, our phones, our tablets, our watches,
smart
these things are now a part of our some of us our identity, but at the very minimum, they are part of our personal space as it relates to I don't allow just anyone to use my phone. I don't allow just anyone to see my laptop because of some of the things that I have that are some of the business that I conduct when I utilize it. So the question becomes, in the realm of a relationship, what are some of the concerns or what are some of the rules of engagement when it comes to how do I engage or when do I allow individuals to actually invade my space when it comes to digital boundaries? What are some of the things and what are the key questions that I would want to ask and consider before I actually do that? So we're going to get into that tonight. But before we do want to jump into our Speak Now question of the night. And it has been consistent over all of the episodes that we have done regarding boundaries. And so it is, what has been your experience with establishing boundaries in your romantic relationships? Were you challenged with creating and instituting them? And what have you learned about yourself based on boundaries? So Charmaine, when we talk about and think about the digital aspect and boundaries that exist, what would you say have been some of the things that have been important for you when it comes to the respect of your digital privacy?
Oh, well, I know that it tends to be very common for, young children to share a lot of passwords. So, for example, middle schoolers tend to share their passwords. Elementary schoolers tend to share their passwords with friends, right? Like they share social media accounts and things like that. And and so that is not cool. Of course, right? And so the problem with that is when the friendships or relationships go bad, right? Then they tend to take out the frustration, anger on that friend, and now they delete the account or they delete their digital currency, which are their photos, their videos, things that they value. It can become a point of that. So I think for me, when it comes to my digital boundaries, I don't share my passwords, to be honest, it took me a long time when Facebook first came out. Yeah, we were that old. When Facebook first came out, I can remember me being upset with you because you would post pictures of our children.
Right.
And so for me, that was a boundary. That was a breach of a boundary because I did not want our children on Facebook because in my mind, think about it. Babies are born, and what do? We take a picture and we put it on Facebook. Well, let's be honest. There's no digital privacy anymore because as soon as you take a picture of your baby's face, they are now in the facial recognition, world, and like literally, we are now we're starting out their digital portfolio. Their social media portfolio almost without their consent.
Right. And on the flip side of that, for me, my rationale was that as a husband and as a father, I want to proudly display my family. And so I wasn't thinking of that at all. I was thinking of, again, a lot of people utilize social media for a myriad of different reasons. And for me, I use it obviously to connect and to promote some of the things that I do artistically or professionally, but even on the personal side, I never want to carry myself, for example, or to have the appearance that I'm a single man, that I'm not a family man. And so that was a part of people knowing exactly it's not just me, but these are the individuals that are actually connected to me as well, that I love and that are a part of the way that I move. There's certain language that I use on social media as well. And so again, your concern was never even a fathom in my mind, but it made complete sense because of the ramifications that it had for our children. So once again, everyone, tonight we're talking about digital boundaries. So let's hear you all. What are your experiences when it comes to establishing boundaries? What have been your challenges with it? And what have you learned about yourself based on the establishment of those boundaries. We are going to take a really quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more on tonight's Before I Do, and we're talking about digital boundaries. Stay tuned, everyone. All right, everyone, welcome back to Before I Do. Tonight, we are getting into part 3 of establishing healthy boundaries. And tonight, we are focusing on digital boundaries and how you navigate, again, your devices and with your individuals that you are in a romantic relationship with.
All right. So coming back, we posed the question, what is your experience with boundaries in your relationship? So we want to talk, like, what were some of the things that you enacted in your relationship to definitely set boundaries? Did you have boundaries with your cell phone, with your watch, with your accounts, things that you shared, right? And so, and then how, were they ever breached, right? And then if so, what occurred after that? So just, again, what did you learn about yourself during that time? Sometimes we don't know we have boundaries until they're violated. And then it's very obvious to us what we value and then how we expect to help others really make sure they're in alignment with those expectations. So now we're going to ask you a couple of questions about digital boundaries because we do want you to reflect. Get your journals out, take a screenshot, definitely get these key questions. And so these are some things that we want for you to establish boundaries. So what are the expectations for communication through texting or social media? Right? I know I bring up our children a lot because, again, they are digital natives. This is what they know, live, breathe. They don't know life before this. And so I can remember with our oldest daughter, when she first wanted a cell phone, I mean, we prolonged that process for as long as possible. And when she earned it, she had to pay for it with like 8 report cards. I think like 2 years of report cards. She had to be on the honor roll. And then when we finally decided to buy her one, we had boundaries. We told her there's no using, you can't take it to church on Sunday. You can't have it at the dinner table. Like we had a whole business meeting and she had to come up with why she wanted the phone. And we came with our boundaries and vice versa. But the biggest thing is we told her if we ever screened or monitored her cell phone and we saw that people were using profanity, cursing, vulgarity in her phone, that pretty much it was a done deal. And then she was like, well, I can't control what people say and how they talk. And we said, well, yes, you can, because it's your phone. You can teach people how to talk to you. So again, what are your expectations for communication through text and social media? Is it okay for people to use profanity with you? Is it okay for them to send pictures of body parts? Like what are your boundaries, right? And so this is really, really important when it comes to social media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So also the question becomes, what content or conversations are appropriate to have through text? Or are there conversations, again, that need to be, we pick up the phone and at the very minimum talk to one another, or we have a conversation face to face?
I love that. That's, I will admit, I can remember when it became like very casual when young adults would like text their parents, hey, I'm engaged. Or, and it's like, no, really? That is not something you text, right? You pick up the phone and call your parent to say I'm engaged to be married. Or, if somebody passed away, is that something you send through a text? Or do you pick up the phone and call? So what are your rules of engagement when it comes to texting and social media?
Absolutely. And again, with these questions, part of the reason why they're so powerful is because, again, your answer and the way that you define these questions or the answers to them may be different, but that does not make them wrong. And so it's important to ensure that the individual that you're in a relationship with, that you're clear about exactly where they stand so that you can then you can navigate exactly what your boundaries between the two of you will be, which leads into our second question, which is, do we post and share our relationship publicly. Now, this is one that can be a really big point of contention in relationships, because again, you may have one person that is, I'm all for it. I want to put on that, hey, I'm dating so-and-so is dating, or so-and-so is dating so-and-so, because again, I'm proud of that, because I want people to know that I'm in a relationship with this person, because my relationship status is a part of the way that I navigate my social media personality. That is a part of, again, who I am, and I let people know when I'm dating someone. Now, I will admit, on the flip side of that, it could be a little awkward when you in and out of relationships with somebody, and you done met, again, like some people say, you done met your king for 5 times this year, and or for some of the brothers out there, you done met a queen, 5 queens already. Apparently, you playing spades. But the point is that on the other side of that, there are individuals that are, no, I like to keep my relationship status discreet. I don't want everyone in my business. I know that there are certain people that they will post a picture of them with the person, but then conceal the face of the person of their partner, because they want to make sure that they are protecting the integrity and the privacy of that relationship. And so again, this is not about establishing what is right and what is wrong from a general standpoint, but it is, again, emphasizing the point that this is a really important conversation to have as it relates to how you're going to navigate your relationship status when it comes to the public eye.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to really check in with each other about posts and check-ins. Sometimes in a relationship, and we find that with our clients, you have a person who's very active on social media. And so usually that is sometimes most likely the extrovert in the relationship. And then sometimes you have a person that's a little bit more introverted and a little bit more private, and maybe, I don't know, they don't like to put all of their information out there. So it is important to kind of do those check-ins to see, is it appropriate time, and to really have these conversations about digital boundaries. I didn't know I had digital boundaries until I saw a child posted on Facebook, and I was like, they're going to know what school my child goes to. They're going to know how my child looks. They're going to know my child's name. They can walk up to my child after school and call him by name. And, so again, first mommy things. So that was my mindset.
And again, nothing wrong with that. That's just not where my mind was. And that was something that, again, I learned. And so one of the interesting conversations that we had was the fact that maybe we post after an event.
Exactly.
Maybe we post when it comes to our children after things rather than either as they're happening or before they're happening. So people can't telegraph some of the things that are going on.
And that used to make me feel safe, because Walter, as an artist, he would travel a lot and perform. And me, again, we have our young daughter at home. I'm by myself. Sometimes he would post that, hey, he's out of town. And I was like, you want people to know that you're out of town and your wife and your child is home by themselves? Like, no. So that posting after real time, I know people don't like to do that, but it actually can be a safety precaution and to safeguard your family.
Absolutely.
All right. So our next question, is it okay to tag you in posts or check-ins places together?
So just as you mentioned, this whole idea of if I'm going somewhere, or if we are somewhere, again, if we're out of town, if we're going on a vacation, and it's like both of us are there, it's like, well, they not home. That mean that house,
Exactly.
And so just so you all know, Charmaine is the queen of hypotheticals. So she is the immediate rush to, why you gonna tell people we're out of town? Now they know we're going, and so they can break into our house. It's like, I think if they know us, they know that we're artists and we don't have very much. So you're gonna be disappointed for all the work you're gonna do to break in our house. But again, and we're laughing, but the point is that when it comes to these types of decisions, we want to be considerate of our partner to ensure that we're not making a decision that is going to compromise what it is our partner would like to see when it comes to us navigating our relationships.
Absolutely. And on a softer note,
I'm just saying,
you don't want to post and tag, your spouse. You might have took some time off of work and said, for some different reasons, right? Hey. And now people see you posted in tags and you at the beach turning up, when your dog done died for the fourth time this year.
And again, because of the world that we live in, supervisors and companies will go on your social media. Absolutely. So when you say, "Hey, I just had a death in the family," or "This happened," or I'm going to be sick. I've been sick for 4 days. Tell them
that the death was your pet ferret,
right,
or a lizard, or
they
whatever.
They will. Companies will go on your social media to check, and also too, for those of you who are looking for employment, absolutely, know that companies do not only they not only check your references, but they also check your social media presence as well. So again, that is an important part of the consideration process when it comes to employment.
Because employment is in fact a relationship.
Yes.
It's a relationship. And so they want to make sure that, is this a relationship that I want to enter into with this individual based on some of their personal pursuits and behaviors. All right. So our next question is, do you have any concerns regarding following or friending other people in my life? Again, you are dating, or maybe we're in a serious relationship. Is it okay for you to friend my close friends, right? Is it okay for you to friend my mom before you ain't even met her yet, but you friend requesting my mother? Like, why? And so again, when it comes to digital boundaries, these are great conversations to have. Who is off limits to you, until I'm ready to make a formal introduction to you. Now, because nowadays, a lot of times there are no boundaries. People will just, if they like somebody, they'll follow everybody that person that's following that person.
Yeah, so a good way to think of it too is that, especially when it comes to social media, right? For those of us who grew up in the era before the digital boom, right? There was this thing called the club. And in the club, right, when you're in the club, there's a place in the club called the dance floor. And everybody can dance on the dance floor. You can dance with anybody. That's part of having a good time. But when you wanted to get to know someone outside of just having a good time dancing around in general, you would pull that person to like a side area, a side room, right? So in the general posts that are public where everybody can see, that is the dance floor, right? Everybody can see your posts. They can see you liking and commenting. But then there is something called direct messaging, which is the DM. So now in the DMs, there is usually there are conversations that are happening. And so the question then becomes, is it appropriate to have conversations with individuals in your direct messaging, and what is the nature of those conversations, and when do you pull your partner into that to say, hey, so and so has been DMing me, my ex-boyfriend, my ex-girlfriend, someone from my old high school days or my old college days. And so again, it's very important to have conversations in regard to that, because if your partner sees a message you on and it's like, oh, that's your ex-boyfriend, why is he DMing you?
So let's stop here. Are you friends with any of your ex-girlfriends on social media? I think the people want to know.
Yes, absolutely.
How many?
1, 2.
And we've been together a long time, y'all.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Like 4 or 5. I mean, but this is just, again, general. We're not DMing. It's nothing nothing's private happening. There ain't no getting down, and it's not going down in the DMs at all. Everything is public.
No reminiscing about
no
times or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, and I do have some past boyfriends who we're friends on
social
what media. And I mean, mine. I mean, these are people I dated when I was 16 or 17. I mean,
still trying to be down.
So interestingly enough, every couple has a very unique dynamic. So for us, we definitely have that sense of trust, but for a lot of couples, that can be a very dangerous thing. I don't talk to any of my exes. They're just literally adult human beings that are on social media like everyone else. But it's not like we engage in any personal conversations or whatever, and then vice versa. But if you're in a relationship and you definitely have not had the conversation with your partner about who is appropriate to friend, who is it appropriate to follow, right? Public conversations versus private conversations, that conversation absolutely needs to happen before there's a violation or a breach and a boundary.
Absolutely. Tonight, everyone, we are talking about establishing healthy boundaries on the digital side. We are going to take a really brief commercial break, and we will be right back with the last 3 points in this on tonight's Before I Do. Stay tuned, everyone.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Welcome back to Before I Do tonight. This is part 3 of how do we establish healthy boundaries, and our focus is digital boundaries. And we were just talking about, how to have that healthy conversation and you establishing it. Don't have the conversation if you first have not journaled and really written down what do you want, what do you desire. Don't be scared to ask for it. Don't wait till a situation comes up that you have to worry about troubleshooting or putting a fire out before you get clear about what your boundaries are. Be proactive. And so we want to jump right in with our last 3 topics. Before we left for the break, we talked about, is it okay to follow certain people or to like or friend request or have a public conversation or chat versus a private chat with someone. And so these are important conversations to have with your partner. And so you want to jump back in with our next one?
Absolutely. We're going to dig a little bit deeper in this with our last 3. So the next one is it okay to use each other's devices? And if so, when? Now, obviously, this is another level of your relationship when you are now yielding your device over to your partner to utilize, whether they want to, again, make a phone call or they want to check an account or something of that nature, because now what you are actually doing is you are opening your device and its contents up to the discretion of your partner. So that means that potentially your bank account information, some of the applications that you use, maybe some of your passwords. Now you are allowing your partner to actually be involved in being able to see those things. And the question becomes, when does that become an appropriate place for the relationship to be done? And so it may be, again, a situation where my partner, we just started dating, 3 or 4 months ago. And it's like, can I see your phone?
No.
And so, but the question becomes why? And then it's like, what you mean? Why are you asking me why? And the appropriate response is because with you asking to see my device, there are certain things in my phone that are personal, not that they have anything to do with another person, but they have to do with my security, my finances, different things. And so this is not just about an integrity check for our relationship. This is about my financial, physical safety. And so it's very important that, again, you have the conversation about and think through, when is it okay to use your partner's device and why are you asking for it? Why do you need to see it?
I think the why for me is big.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's just a method of, I just want to know what they're hiding, it's not about hiding. It's just, again, our devices carry so much information. And again, even if you're in a healthy relationship, you still want to protect your bank accounts, your information. And it is very easy at this point for someone to quickly mirror your phone, download some malware on your phone that could monitor all of your activity. Typically, if you are in a very unhealthy relationship, for example, there's certain national organizations for individuals in bad relationships that usually result in domestic violence. There is a whole list of things not to do on your devices if you have a partner who's very unhealthy and your relationship often puts you at danger, because most of them, they control the partner by their digital device, by their devices. They monitor, they screen, they download different things on there that the partner isn't even aware of. And so again, if you've only been dating for 3 months, how much do you really know about your partner and their why?
And I think you made a really good point when you talked about the why is really important in this, and not being afraid to stand your ground and being ready for the pushback and the criticism that comes with protecting your boundary. With protecting, again, and understanding that this is not me trying to hide anything from you. This is about protecting my privacy.
Yeah, and this is not to condone, okay, the partner who's already been caught cheating.
Yeah, not at all. No.
You are a habitual offender, right? This is not for that person to use this as an excuse. Well, I don't know if I want you to have access to my bank accounts. We are not, helping this person have a cover, okay? We're talking about a healthy relationship between two people, and maybe you were just in the earlier months or phases of the relationship, and you choose to say, nope, I'm not ready yet. That's okay. Are you open to sharing your passwords? Question mark. Well, I think they know my response to that already.
But you do bring up a good point that in a situation where there has been infidelity and you have decided to continue in the relationship, then the sharing of passwords may be a part of the recovery process where, hey, listen, if you are really genuine about wanting to restore and reconcile in this relationship, I'm going to need the passwords to your da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so that is not an unreasonable request when there are websites or social media sites that the person might have been used to really guise some felonious dealings and behavior.
And there is a such thing as, and sharing your passwords can lead to digital abuse, meaning, let's say the relationship dissolves or it ends, and you all, maybe it doesn't end on, your partner's terms. Like they're not really happy with the separation. You've now left yourself vulnerable with having shared your passwords and things like that. And so you really need to be in a place of trust. Usually when you share a password, it should be because we're sharing an account. Like, you have the legal right to this information and I have the legal right to this information. But it is dangerous in general, not just to a person you're in a romantic relationship, but even and especially family members, children, and friends.
Yeah, and bear in mind, again, there are levels to this. So even as you go through these, there are certain levels that you're going to really want to think through and consider before you allow access in some of these areas. And one of the main ones is this last question, which is, what is your philosophy on sexting? So the sending of certain salacious pics, certain things where send me this, send me that.
That word.
Salacious, yeah, you got to say it salacious. This is like you got to slide into it. But salacious pics, right? And even now, the law they have had to establish laws for individuals who were taking those pictures that were sent within the framework of a relationship, and now there's revenge posting that's taking place. So again, what is your philosophy on even sending pictures that may be utilized in that way?
I mean, definitely you put yourself in a vulnerable place. You're giving them literally ownership and the right to do with that image whatever they choose to do with it. Now, and often too, depending on your age, we know if you're underage, it is it is against the law.
Right.
If you're underage child, you are not of the age of consent, it's not even, it's not even legal for you to distribute images that, showcase your body and doing certain acts, sexual acts, because it is essentially, transferring and sharing pornography and or, lewd, images. And so One of our favorite websites is loveisrespect.org. It is a national website. They thoroughly go in depth with how to how to establish what respect is in all of these areas, but they really talk about what is digital abuse. And a lot of these questions that we ask, when the boundaries are out of control, it is considered digital abuse. And it is loveisrespect.org, one of my favorite websites at this point, because it really helps to provide clarity. If you are not in a healthy relationship, it can help you with a safety plan. And when you log onto that website, I want you to think about what we talked about. That website, because they understand domestic violence and all of the unhealthy relationships and things that occur, it even tells you how to log on that website and to log off that website without leaving a digital footprint. Okay. It tells you how to do that. And it provides, information for how to ensure, what if you think your ex is really, we broke up 6 months ago, but this person always seems to show up where I am. Right. And so maybe this person has put some, information on your phone or your device, and you don't even know they're tracking you. And so we definitely don't want this to be a show where we're scaring you, but we want you to be clear and to be very aware, because if you're specifically a parent, a grandparent of a teenager, a young, I don't care, in elementary school now, elementary, middle school, or high school, it is important that you everyone in your house, you educate yourself on your digital footprint, safeguarding your accounts, and making sure that digital abuse does not occur. And so from that, it really defines what a healthy relationship is that has healthy digital boundaries, and then the non-example of what that is.
Absolutely. So once again, that is loveisrespect.org. It really is a great website. And so a lot of the information that you have heard us discuss when it comes to these boundaries came from loveisrespect.org. So we encourage you to check it out. Listen, everyone, thank you all so much for tuning into Before I Do. This has really been a great series as it relates to establishing healthy boundaries. Hope you all have gotten something out of it. Don't forget, be sure to like, share, and subscribe at couplesacademy.org and reach out to us for a session. We would love to partner with you.
When are we going to meet you? We're ready. We're ready. All right. We definitely have a lot of programming and things here at Couples Academy. We love Danielle and Hassani. We really appreciate the vision and mission of Couples Academy. So show some love, show some support. So like, share, and subscribe, and tell someone about how this platform is a great joy and blessing for you.
Now, because you all have been, because this boundary conversation has been so good, tonight is the last Wednesday of the month. Normally we have our Speak Now Q&A night, and so we are actually going to move that to next week. We got some great questions related to some of the topics that we've discussed. So if you tuned in tonight, wanting to get your question answered, be sure to join us next week, and we will do our Speak Now Q&A night on next Wednesday night. My name is Walter Jennings.
My name is Charmaine Jennings.
We are your Couples Academy practitioners, and we look forward to seeing y'all next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night. What is the best gift or investment for a newly engaged couple?
What do couples really need? Proactive, transparent, synergy. They need to synthesize. A 12-week premarital group counseling experience that combines the mind, heart, mission, and vision for an effective future.
No matter the age or life experience, this research-based curriculum will help to increase marriage resilience by 30%. Why choose Synthesize for premarital counseling? 1, to better understand yourself and your partner, and to audit your past and present condition in order to be a proactive couple.
2, to engage in crucial conversations about finances, communication, sex, and intimacy, to be fully and completely transparent.
3, to develop a unified vision and mission in order to embody high levels of synergy.
Give the gift that builds proactive, transparent synergy. Synthesize.